Imagine having 40 and still being the second best player on the ground. She's the GOAT.
Wants to take them on, runs to 50, runs inside, a sidestep, another bounce, has the shot. Oh, baby!
Welcome back to Further North, everybody. I'm down in Hobart. I'm in the hotel room. The grind does not stop for the podcast. Apologies about the lighting. It's going to be a little bit bad. The front lighting is not good here, not in the studio, but hey, that doesn't matter because we've just absolutely annihilated Richmond down in Hobart. Tasmania produces the goods. This is what I've been saying for a long, long time. And to celebrate on for his first win of the season, Chief, finally we got you on for a win, mate. We thought the Saints might be the time, but no, we had to wait a couple more weeks.
Yeah, and the funny thing about it was I wasn't actually meant to do this podcast. You've been nice enough to accommodate me. I was supposed to do one later in the year, but it was a great win. Wesley Snipes in White Man Can't Jump. He said, "Some days the sun even shines on a dog's ass." And that's how I feel right now when it comes to North Melbourne. Like, it's been a really tough year, obviously, but this was a nice win. This was a nice little win.
It was an absolutely dominating win too. Like, look, it was. We were definitely the better team, especially through the first half. We just couldn't convert very well, and we'll talk about the third quarter. And we're going to get onto that. There's lots of things to talk about. Just as a little teaser of something we're going to talk about a lot very, very soon. We've got a question from Noah Jacobson on Facebook. When was the last time someone got 40 touches and 10 clearances and wasn't best on ground?
You know what? It would be one of those ones where someone's kicked 10. That's the only thing I can think of is, Buddy kicks 13, but, Mitchell's had 45 touches and 15 clearances. Like, you're exactly right. I mean, Sheez with a 54 bomb. He had a chance actually to break the record. He had a chance for
Morris
55.
Rioli, thanks, mate.
But and he had a few other chances here and there, but it was just crazy to watch. It's crazy to watch.
It was unreal. I mean, look, I was at the game today, and it was interesting walking into that game. There was a lot more Richmond, it felt like, at the ground than North Melbourne. And to the North fans that did get down there, they served up something absolutely delicious for you, because I've never seen North empty stadiums. I wasn't there for the 90s. I didn't see us emptying stadiums everywhere we went. But three-quarter time, we were sitting around, heaps of Richmond fans up on the hill. We were sitting on a blanket and all that sort of stuff, picnic up. And let's just say there became a lot more empty space around us when the three-quarter time siren left. And that felt good, because I haven't got that much in my AFL supporting life. And North Melbourne now clear stadiums everywhere we go, mate. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny one. We probably start with emptier stadiums, but sometimes we clear the stadiums at the end of some people.
We have different ways we clear the stadium.
Yeah,
sometimes
exactly.
It's our own fans and sometimes it's the Tigers fans. But hey,
Definitely.
On this occasion, Tigers fans got to beat the traffic, which was really, really nice. So, look, there's lots to get into. We've got lots of questions. Thank you to everyone who's written in. I only posted up the post on Facebook and Instagram to ask your questions about an hour ago, because we want to get this out for everybody, because genuinely we're super excited, and it was a fantastic win. So thank you to everyone who got their questions in. We couldn't get to everybody's. The amount of questions about Trembath and Sheez, I've picked a few of them out. I apologize if I didn't get to everybody's, but Further North Podcast on Facebook, Further North Pod on Instagram. That is the place to follow to get your questions read out on the pod every week. So where do we even start with this one? I mean, let's go back and forth just on our thoughts here about the game, and then we'll get into some questions. I didn't know we were going to be getting that dished up to us, mate. I mean, we've touched on it before, but just the midfield performance. This is what we sort of want from our midfield. I actually do have a question here, which is going to lead into what I was going to talk about. So this can be our first point. Jackson Taylor on Facebook, is this a preview of Clarkson's Kangas or a fluke? I think the former. There's been a lot of questions this year about game plan. What is our identity? There's a lot of people saying we don't have any. I've always maintained the goal is to score from stoppage. We've seen that a lot with what we try to do. And when we win stoppage and can score from it, we actually are in games looking really, really good. This was probably the best we've ever done that. Do you think this was a glimpse of what Clarkson is trying to make us do week in, week out?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things, a confluence of factors that came together, which meant that we looked quite good against Richmond. Definitely, the clearance game is something that we've been good at basically for the whole year, and our clearance differential is actually in the top half of the ladder, which would surprise some people given our ladder position, but I still think we don't score off turnover enough. I think that's the easiest way to score, and the best teams are doing that. But still, we looked a lot more fluent with the way that we moved the ball today. The interesting thing was I was looking at the two teams before the game, and I thought we're going to run these guys off their feet, because if you look at the mainstays of their midfield in the form of Prestia, Taranto, Hopper, McIntosh, these sort of guys. They're good solid players, don't get me wrong, but they're inside players and they don't have the leg speed. And you could see LDU, Powell at times, definitely George, McKercher obviously off the half back line. They couldn't
got
run.
a lot of outside ball.
Yeah, they couldn't run with our midfield. And I think if anything, this makes it more frustrating about the year that we just had, because we can see what our midfield can do. And that's what they should do. Like, I'm not saying that's the standard every week, because you're not going to get one guy dropping 54 and another guy dropping 40 every week. But what you are going to get is a system, hopefully, and one where we beat most midfields. And if we can beat most midfields, generally that means they're in the game a lot more. So, yeah, it actually makes me more frustrated because, as I've said many, many times, people are going to get frustrated with me. It's not about personnel. It's about the game plan and the system and the confidence. And what we saw today is a highly confident team knowing what the system is and executing.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, we've got a question, Joe Mohi on Facebook. Why can't we play like this outside of a few games this season? And look, a lot of it is to do with age and experience as well. I mean, we're putting the team's miles younger than what was against us today as well, which is something to point out. You've got, Trembath and Whitlock were two of the key forwards up there, and they've played 4 games between them. So that is a massive part of it. Geordie Payne's in that category. Constanti's never got a game until this year. You can do this across the board, right, of players that are very, very young. But I think one thing to remember, and something I've always felt and tried to talk about here a little bit, is a system isn't built in a season, I don't think. I think it's repetition. And when experience and repetition sort of combine, I think that's when it can come together. And the other thing I think we saw today was confidence and almost cockiness at times. LDU taken 3 bounces before he delivered it to Darling, just out of the goal square, and not just bombing it long. Even LDU is using his pace. Those moments to me, when he sort of ran past McIntosh and there was another player, I don't know who, he sort of shrugged off towards the boundary line on the 50 and put that ball about 30 metres out, speared it towards the goal square, just 30 metres out from the goal square, and Darling just takes that mark, and he's even doing that when he'd usually put it about 50 metres into the sky and hang it on top of people's heads and it had come to ground. And I think today we saw almost like a cockiness from North Melbourne, that they knew they were better. Sheez knew he was going to be getting that ball. LDU knew that he could get that ball and run away from people. Our disposal was cleaner. And the biggest thing I saw, we were transitioning the ball from half back. And this is without Hardemans and Goders and, Archer and McDonald and those medium-sized players. We didn't throw Geordie Payne back, which is what people were talking about. We trusted O'Sullivan down the back line, which we'll talk about more. He was fantastic. Everyone was. But Daniel and McKercher did a really good job of distributing that ball. Stevens pushing down on the wing to be that link up and then getting it to our gun mids, and then bang. We ran straight through the guts so many times, and watching bits of the replay before we jumped on here, I haven't seen us transition the ball like that, even all season for the games we have won. It didn't feel that effortless.
No, that's a great point. I feel like the only game that was very close to this was probably the second and third quarters against Carlton. We saw quite a good amount of transition through the centre of the ground, but it wasn't quite as consistent. I agree with everything you said. We definitely transitioned it a lot better. We got it in the hands of our good kickers. And the thing about it is they're not going to hit every single target. It's just not going to happen. But when they do hit the targets, that's when we're going to score. The other thing I'll point out is, Josh, is our kick to handball ratio is like 1-to-1, right? And generally you want, it depends on the game style, but when we play badly, our we handball more generally. Today was a lot different, and if you watched the game, our handballing was much more assertive. It wasn't panicking, and we see that a lot in our backline. Is a lot of like 3 or 4 meter handballs, very quick to try and get us out of trouble, and it's kind of just invites more pressure. Today it was different. Today it was forward handballs, fast, assertive handballs that got us into space, and then we're able to dispose of it a lot more effectively. And we saw how effective it can be, us playing fast.
Yeah, getting it into the corridor quick as well.
For sure. And I've said this from the get-go, we can play fast. We've shown that over the journey. Like, we can play a really explosive brand of football if we want. The worry is obviously what happens if we turn it over. But today we clearly didn't worry about that as much.
Yeah, absolutely. So, look, we've clearly got it there. And the other thing I noticed was when we, like you said, the kick to handball ratio is important. And we were kicking the ball really well, and we were finding pockets of space. There was players running into pockets of space. We didn't find it every single time we exited the back 50. We didn't have to dump the ball down the line every single time. It was, we found that switch back into the middle, or we found someone running over the backside of a pack to hit up on the wing, and actually was able to get it past halfway, and then we could explode instead of just dump it down the line and hope for the best. Because when we were dumping it down the line, Richmond's tolls intercepted very well. They had more contested marks for the day, and I feel like just watching the game and being there, they chopped it off a lot. So it was good to see us not just continuously go to something that clearly wasn't working, and we actually played to our strengths. And like we touched on before, the amount we were trying to go into the corridor and then use our pace and our runners, it really impressed me.
It was exciting. It's exciting to watch, and that's what gets the crowd involved. And you could get the sense the first. I mean, if we'll probably touch on the third quarter in a little bit, but you get the sense when we get the momentum up, the crowd really gets involved, and the players feed off it, and that's what's going to make Marvel Stadium the fortress going forward, hopefully.
Michael Schofield on Facebook: Is our team selection showing that we should have had some trust in the younger players earlier? Do you think the team we put on the park today, obviously due to injury, a lot of it as well, but there's a lot of young guys in the team compared to what we were seeing first half of the year. Do you think Clarkson should have been braver with team selection earlier in the season, or do you think he's waited till the right time? Because I think looking at how we've played with some of these young guys in the team, especially today, he's probably unleashed them at the right time, because if you do it too early, it could almost be a confidence thing. Look at Whitlock. He didn't get back into the side for a long, long time. So what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, it's a what if. It's very hard to know, really. I mean, we did have a really bad patch, sort of a 6-game patch where we got blown out a bunch of times, and we did have some more younger players in the team. We also had some of our best performances with the older guys in the team. So I wouldn't say that necessarily. But what I would say is that obviously necessity has brought about invention in this case, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing more of these young guys play because, as you said, we've had some bad injuries, but that means guys have to step up. I mean, if Larky doesn't get injured, maybe we don't see Trembath. Maybe we don't see Whitlock as much, and I think that we have to. That's exciting. I think it's kind of easier, I guess, for Clarko to blood some of these players back in the end of the season, because it's kind of like no one really cares about these games. It's very, very low impact. But I think it's been done in a really in a careful way is probably the best way to describe it. And look, you have to take a step back and go, yes, maybe he hasn't blooded the youngsters as much as we'd like, but at the same time, we're not the ones who are seeing them train every day and seeing them play every week. If you are out there watching these players play VFL, and there are people that do that, Joel the Mole, the Arden Street Mole, he's down there every week. He's the type of guy that I would listen to. But Clarko and the coaching crew would know what the capabilities are of these guys and whether they can get what they want out of them at an AFL setting. So,
all right, let's go to the midfield first before we go to the forward and the back lines, because the real talking points from today are about our midfield. We've got a question on Instagram, Seamus B90, and we're going to talk about both these players. This is not a suggestion of my opinion on it, but did LDU have a better game than Sheez? Both brilliant, but think LDU might get overlooked. So do you think LDU's overall game was maybe better than Sheez? Is there a case, or are we just going to gush about these two plus others over the next 10 or 15 minutes?
I just don't think you can drop 54 and not be the best midfielder.
And kick two, to be fair.
And kick two and kicked 2 points and then one out of the full. Like he had offensive output as well. It's not like he's getting a whole bunch of touches in the back half, like as a half back. No offense to Bailey Dale. Bailey Dale earlier this year dropped 49 and he had no one playing on him.
Yeah.
And Sheez was there at the coalface. He also had 5 tackles, 8 clearances. Like he was there doing a lot of the hard work and getting the touches. And if you go back and watch Tom Mitchell's 54, who's now the dual record holder with Sheezel, it's a lot of 1-2s, 1-2-3s, that sort of stuff. Whereas I didn't see as much of that from Sheez. I thought it was he runs to space. He also is so clean, Josh. The cleanliness of his hands was just incredible at times. So he reminds me a lot of Simon Black. Like he doesn't move super fast, but he's just so efficient and clean with his hands. Look, LDU had an amazing game, and if you just go to the AFL fantasy points, I mean, LDU's dropped 100. It's nearly 170 on AFL fantasy, which is a huge game.
What did Sheez get?
He was in the 180s, so he was very, very high. It's huge numbers, crazy numbers. But so obviously they've both had incredible games. Sheezel just was better, but LDU was fantastic. He obviously we love seeing him explode from contests. That's what we want to see, and he did that multiple times. I think, as you said, like he probably had the confidence / arrogance to be able to do that against some slower opposition. But let's not forget, Sherry also dominated. Sherry had a very, very good game.
Oh, yeah. Well, look, we're going to touch on nearly every midfielder really quickly, and we'll try not to make this podcast go for an hour and a half because there's so many. But just gonna read out the Sheezel and the LDU stat lines quickly. Sheezel, 54 touches, 2 goals, 7 marks, 5 tackles, 66% disposal efficiency, 16 contested possessions, which is something. Sheezel had a little bit of bulldog about him today, and he's not one, like you said, like a Simon Black. He's not the biggest bloke going to bash people like a Wardlaw, but his contested stuff has been very, very good. 6 clearances.
Touches, Josh.
54 touches.
54 touches. The current dual record holder with Tom Mitchell in the AFL VFL history. Just let that sink
outrageous. In. Yeah. I mean, we deserve it too. I mean, 688 metres gained for Sheez and 8 inside 50s. It's interesting because you look at the LDU stats, and once again, these guys are both had incredible days. I mean, LD had 40. I don't know. I'm assuming that would be a career high for him too. I haven't heard much about that, but I feel like I don't think I remember a time him dropping 40. He's got 40 disposals, 1 goal, 9 marks, which I think was really good from him, 7 tackles, 17 contested possessions. And then this is where he damages 10 clearances, 12 inside 50s, 6 intercept possessions, and 732 metres gained. 15 score involvements for both Sheezel and LDU as well. So it's just an absolute domination by them. This is the LDU game we've been waiting for a long time. He can clearly still do it, and I think this is what excites me. When those two play like that, not even to that level, if they played 75% of that, like a normal AFL player, we're going to be a very, very damaging side. And I've said this a few times. I don't believe this year the problem has been our bottom 10 players on game day. I think our problem has been Sheez and LDU, those sort of players. Even Larky to a degree, even though he's had some injury, haven't fired as much as we saw the year before and even the previous to that. And they've still been very, very good, but we're used to them being even better. And if those guys can replicate 75% of that most game days and become those A graders consistently, I think we're going to be in a really, really good position next year. So that's what excites me.
Yeah, for sure. People forgot about how good Harry was and is. They just forgot. Oh, yeah. They forgot how. I mean, he had an amazing first season. He had a really, really good second season. His first half of the third season probably hasn't been up to that standard. It's still an amazing standard, but this is the type of player he really is. He's a guy who can have that effect on games.
Does this game put him in the midfield now? There's a lot of discussion where he plays. The Triple M's and things love asking him this. I think through this year when he's been a little bit down, we've all felt like maybe half forward because you've got Powers and LDUs, and maybe Foss goes in there eventually, McKercher, maybe Sheezer gets pushed out of that midfield. He's sort of just gone, I'm the guy, right? He did that. He played in the midfield all day. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know how many CBAs he got. They haven't updated that on the AFL app yet, but he was in there all day with those guys. And is this his position? This clearly must be, right?
Look, it's a hard one. He's obviously dropped. As I said, he's for the fifth time this podcast. He's dropped 54, so it's pretty hard to say he's not a midfielder. But I would say this: numbers aren't everything. And I know I'm blabbing on about 54 possessions, but he could potentially be of more service across half forward, where he's having 20 touches and kicking 2 or 3 goals, and he could still have double figure score involvements potentially. I just don't think you need to pigeonhole him. He has the ability to play different roles. I think that's depending on the matchups, maybe you play him forward for a little bit, but then majority midfield. I think from now on, I think Dacos is probably the archetype for that. He plays a little bit. He plays most of the game in the midfield, and then potentially has to go forward for a little bit. Plays half back for a little bit if he needs to. I think in the future for Sheez, it's going to be how does he deal with the tag. Because if he's dropping numbers like this, he's going to get attention, and
that's where LDU needs to step up, isn't it? When these guys
100%, yeah, and that's the next iteration of Harry, and he'll have to work out ways to deal with that. But that's what it is. Maybe it's going half forward, maybe it's going half back, maybe it's going 2-on-1. There's all these different ways you can do it. So, but that's a good problem to have.
Let's just point out some of the numbers of the other guys in the midfield. I mean, Luke Parker had 30. He battled all day. McKercher, 29, running off half back. He was basically a midfield. He got a lot of ball forward of centre. I think the main one there's two I'd really like to point out, and we're not going to spend time on everybody because the podcast will go so long, but George Wardlaw, 25 touches, but God, he did a lot. He did so much. There was a couple of times, I can't remember who finished off the play. He won the ball from a clearance and we transitioned forward and kicked a really crucial goal from it. And he was the one diving on the ground all game, getting the ball out to your Sheezels and your LDUs. And this is, once again, the sort of game, and it's crazy, even him, 25 touches. How many clearances did he end up getting for the game? Let's just have a look. 5 for the game. But he felt like he was everywhere, but he felt like he played the role that we want him to play next to those other two guys. Everyone had their own thing today. And this is what balance in a team is, right? He got the ball to those guys and he tackled and stopped people from running the other way. And if he can just get a bunch of touches doing that around the ground, his ball use was really good today as well. And since he's come back from his concussion, I think his ball use has been much, much improved. Let me have a look at his disposal efficiency, because I think he's been over mid-70s every single game. So 76% again today, disposal efficiency. He even stepped up today as well, just doing all the hard stuff. And it's perfectly the role he needs to play next to Sheezel and next to LDU.
Yeah, it's a point of difference. We've said this before about our midfield, is that we kind of need different players to play different roles. That's the idea of it. And he probably didn't play the defensive role that we think maybe he should play. But that's kind of, I guess, at his best, he's attacking. He's a ball hunter. That's what he does. And he hunted the ball today. Third quarter, Josh, we'll talk about the third quarter at some point, but third quarter, he was a dog with a bone. He was attacking that ball. He was ripping it out of people's hands. The play that comes to mind is the Sheezel's second goal, I think, on the run from 50, where he's beaten a player. He's gotten to the ball before another player, had farmed it out to Powell to Constanti, and Constanti to Sheezel for a goal. And that was, in actuality, that was probably the game. But George that third quarter was just, he was on fire. People couldn't get near him. And the other thing is, and we forget how good an athlete George is. George, with those quads, he's the type of guy who we've talked about. You, Josh, you tell me every week, he's the type of guy who can jump out of a pool. He ran away from guys. He was running away from guys.
Yep.
And that's not something that we expect from a guy who's got quads the size of Arnold Schwarzenegger from the 1975 Olympia, and a guy who wears black boots.
Oh, how good. Look, my love for George is so high, and imagine if he can put a full season together. We've seen too many incredible glimpses from him, and I think since this midfield's come back, LD had his concussion, then Wardlaw had his concussion. Sheez was gone back in the guts. This is what we want the midfield to look like. So this is what we need to roll with, especially going into next year. And then hopefully, I'd love to see more McKercher through there, Finn O'Sullivan, Powell, Parker. I think Powell's been really good not being in the centre bounce. I think he's done a lot more and been a lot more effective around the ground and stoppage clearances and things like that. So someone else I want to point out in this midfield, and we'll talk about your man, the helmet, in a second. Jai Simpkin, on return, I think he was fantastic today. 24 touches, kicked a goal. He just did, there was a lot of leadership things around the ground. I think he won his own football and he used the ball well. His little sidestep is back. He's got a decent left foot on him when he's running along the boundary as well. I really like what Jai Simpkin brought, and I think, have they? Let's see if they've updated them. I love CBAs. They've updated them now. I mean, Simpkin, I love a CBA, mate. Simpkin didn't get a single CBA that entire game, and obviously because those guys were cooking in there. But him around the ground and his stoppage clearances, I think they can be really valuable for us. And this game, and I know it's not, we've got to look at the bigger picture, not just this one game, but I feel like our midfield is finding the right balance. I feel like we finally found the right balance of who should be in there. Powell not being in there as much and Simpkin, I think that makes us tidier out of the middle. But their competitiveness and cooler heads around the ground, I think are really, really valuable. Get your best midfielders in there. The rotation is correct. I loved it. I mean, look, LDU, Parker, Wardlaw, Sheezel all had a 24 or over CBAs. LDU was in there for every single one of them. And then, there's no other midfielders. There's only 4 midfielders who rotated through the centre bounce, which I think is really, really interesting. So I think it balances it out better.
Yeah, for sure. I also think Simpkin played maybe a little bit more forward because of the mix, with no Larky there, no Zerha.
He's a great shot at goal down there, though.
Yeah, 100%. And he probably spent a little bit more time forward across half forward, moving up and back, and it meant that probably Curtis spent a little bit more time closer to goal. And you can see what that mix does. I mean, Curtis is just. We'll talk about that when the forwards come around, but that positioning from Simpkin really opened up the door for Curtis, and he stepped through it big time. But yeah, I love Simpkin. I've been a Simpkin fan the whole time. We've had arguments with both you and the YouTube comment section. You can never beat the YouTube comment section, Josh. Did you know that?
No,
you can never beat them. They're always right. It doesn't matter what the opinion is.
No,
so
I think to back up their opinion with anything.
Yeah.
Not everyone. If you're in the comments now, I love you very much, but you know the guys I'm talking about.
Yeah. Simpkin was great as well. You make a very good point. I feel like the midfield mix today was pretty spot on. I will point out though, as I said, I think the Tigers midfield that they rolled out today really played into our hands. It really did in terms of our ability to get out of contest and also beat them up the ground. Like the Richmond midfield looked like plotters today.
I mean, look, that's completely fine with me. And look, and it's good. Like Clarkson clearly kept those guys in there because they were humming and let them do what they do. And if we're on top, we want to stay on top. And that's something I think we did well. Even towards the end of the game, Richmond sort of kicked 3 goals in the last quarter. And even though the game was sort of done, I was frustrated because I wanted to just keep our foot on the throat. And then we came back and kicked the last 2 of the game, which, blew the margin back out a little bit, which is satisfying for a club like ours and fans like us who don't get to see wins like that very often. Last time we played the Tigers, my heart was in my mouth until Toby Pink took the greatest mark I've ever seen, bar Goldstein, against the Cats in that final. So, look, 18 tackles for the big helmet today. He's your man. Chat to me about big Tristan Sherry.
Is there any man that's more deliberately clumsy in the game than Tristan Sherry with his elbows and his falling in the back of people and his tackling? Oh, I didn't mean to do that, injure that player. It was a complete accident. But when he's in that sort of mood, there's just no one who can go with him really in the comp.
He was back today.
Yeah, he was definitely back. And let's not – Toby Nankervis is nobody's fool, Josh.
Well, the last time we played them, the battle between those guys was outstanding. I think Nankervis battled well today as well, but Cherry was just a different level. 18 tackles, that's 10 more than anyone else on the ground.
It's insane, and he's around the ball the most, admittedly, but they're hard tackles as well. They're not arm tackles; they're body tackles. He's hurting people, but I just love his intensity, and when he's like that, what he does to our midfield is incredible. And look, as you say, I think sometimes we get caught up in the amount of clearances he gets because he does dump kick it quite a lot based on how much he gets it, but sometimes we need that. But I think today was a really, really good mix. And when Sherry's like that, it's going to be hard for any team to get that close to our midfield, you know.
No, absolutely. I mean, look, let's go to the forward line because there's a lot of questions here. Where do we even start with our forward line? I mean, look, Jesse Stevenson on Facebook. How will Larky break back into this beast of a forward line with a winking emoji? Is Larky? Look, if Larky was healthy, do you think he'd even get a game at the moment, mate? Or we keep him in the Magoos?
Jesse, you make a good point, mate. I think he's look. It's just another contract for Kane Corns to get annoyed about, isn't it? It was wasting all this money in the twos. True. Quite seriously, though.
Larky ball, Sheezy ball. It's pretty similar.
Yeah, quite seriously though, guys, this is what I've been saying the whole time. It's not about the people that are in the forward line. It's about how the ball comes in, and it's about how our forward line functions. And we've kicked the biggest score of the year, and we've not had Larky or Zerhai, our two highest goal scorers for the year, in the forward line for most of the game. So what you've got is a forward line that's working very well. The ball's coming in well. And look, before we'll touch on Curtis in a little bit, because Curtis is... Sherry is my boy, but Curtis is 150% my boy. He's my favourite player. But I'm starting to like old Cooper Trembath. He's got a chest on him, Trembath. He's got very broad across the shoulders, isn't he?
Yeah, I completely agree. Look, at the ground, seeing Whitlock there, he's a very skinny boy. Cooper's got a lot of size over Whitlock at the moment, which is so interesting. I guess it's just genetics or something like that, but Cooper obviously hasn't been at the level that Whitlock has been for a while, coming in the second round of the mid-season draft. So it was interesting to see. But Kai McPherson on Facebook asks, what does our best forward line look like in round 1 next year? Trembath has had 2 really good weeks, so I'd be excited to see him alongside Larky. What do you reckon?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I don't think it's a hard thing anymore. So I think with Trembath, apparently he was fat. That was his problem. He was a fat kid and came in to a pre-season at North Melbourne a little bit underdone. And I mean, no offense to Sellers. Do you remember Sellers from
how could I forget?
Sellers was out of condition as well, but Trembath was even more out of condition, so that tells you a little bit. And he's gone away. They've told him, look, if you go away and get fit, we'll have a look at you again. And what has he done? He's gone away, gotten fit, and look at the kid. He's in great shape. And this is a guy who's coming in midway through the season. Okay, he's not had the AFL conditioning level, but he's come in. He's been able to run out games. So
he's barely at VFL level because he's been at Blackburn.
Exactly. So absolute credit to Cooper Trembath for being fit and clearly going away and doing his own thing. And his leap, he's just got a leap. He's explosive. Josh Neal's pool is gradually, it's filling up with people that can jump out of it.
This is the pre-season training that we all need to do. And put ice in there too. It's an ice bath and a pool jump, all in one. I think it's absolutely fantastic stuff. I mean, look, we've got a few Trembath sort of questions here I'll read out, and then we can talk about him in the forward line a bit more. Luke_Scolia on Instagram is Whitlock goal with many exclamation marks, which was fantastic to see, even though I love Matt Whitlock and I think he's absolutely part of that forward line in the future. But, unfortunately didn't get too much of the football today, but to see everyone get around him for his first goal was fantastic. He goes, Whitlock goal. How good is Trembath going to be for us? There's a few more here. Blakes_family_adventures. How good's winning? Well, it's great. I want more. So do I. I think we found one in Cooper T and Blair_Roberts14 on Instagram. 2026 Coleman Trembath.
Yeah, it's a good Blair Roberts. It's a great question. It's crazy to think that there'd be 14 Blair Roberts. Is with the 14 suffixes? But That's kind of crazy. There's
Well,
a lot.
look,
There
I
must be
can
a lot of them
investigate
out
that
there.
after the pod, mate, I reckon.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously not the Coleman. I love the attitude though. It's kind of cool. Here's the question though: is that how did we fit those dudes in? Like, obviously, I think Larky is quite clearly a walk-up start. He's the best forward we've had since Ben Brown. I think that you have to think the starting, if all fit, you'd have to think based on the last 2 weeks that Trembath is the third forward, the third tall forward, along with Darling. Because I think
Darling's been great.
Darling's been great. He's, a couple of times he blocks for Trembath or he blocks for someone else, for Curtis or whoever. He's so integral for the functioning of the forward line, and it's great to see. But I think Trembath is, which is crazy, has overtaken basically everybody else on the list. He's overtaken Finbar. He's overtaken Dawson. He's overtaken Whitlock just coming in, and it's a credit to him to do that. One thing about Cooper Trembath, which you can see, which is clear, is he's such a natural footballer as well as being a good athlete. He knows where to run. He's got good body work. He's got a very simple kicking style, which works clearly. So we've unearthed. It's amazing to me that we've unearthed this guy.
Yeah. I mean, 6 goals in 2 weeks. I mean, imagine if someone told you that would be happening. I mean, look, Further North podcast had him on first, I'll say. After the draft, we got to chat to him, and he's the nicest guy out my way out east in Victoria as well. And to come from Blackburn to do that, it's just outrageous. And, we get a lot of criticism from our own fans about our drafting, but I don't think we appreciate some of the guys we've found. I mean, Geordie Payne as well, I thought was really, really good. And, he was really tough in the contest. His disposal was really clean, kicked another goal again today as well. And these guys are all from mid-season drafts, and that's really, really exciting. But the thing you said just before about Cooper looking like such a natural forward, that's something I said last week on the pod. And I'm not trying to point out Finbar exactly, but I haven't been the biggest Finbar fan. I want to love the guy, but there's a little bit of chaotic sort of or chaos about his game, and a little bit of, if he can do it, it looks great, but a lot of the time he can't because he's not quite at the level yet. And Trembath has come in and just everything, and this is not at all an attack on Finbar or anything like that. I think he can be a contributor, and I think he can do things in the VFL to push for selection, which will put pressure on the guys in front of him. But Cooper's come in and he just looks, like you said, like a forward. He knows where to run. He knows when to jump. His kicking action looks really, really good. He looks like he's smart. And even things he did, I think for LDU's goal, he ran down the Richmond player and tackled him, so he kicked it out of bounds. And then that ball that he, forced the guy to kick it out of bounds went straight back into LDU, which he kicked a goal from. And that's the sort of stuff, that little efforts. And Finbar did do that too. And once again, I'm not trying to compare the two specifically, but it's more about Cooper looks like a proper forward already after 2 games. He's getting on the score sheet, and he looks like he'll get on the score sheet every week at this point.
100%. And the little intangibles, Josh, that I always talk about when it comes to these sort of guys, and Finbar has it, I guess, a little bit as well. But as I said before, the fact that he's gone away, worked on himself independently, come back in really good shape, there's something about the players that it's their second opportunity. They don't make it straight away through the draft, and the level of work rate and work ethic that instills in you, it's great to see, but it's also going to hold him in fantastic stead for the rest of his career. Like, think about this, guys, and I'm not saying he's going to be the best player in the world, but I will say that it's really great, promising signs. Imagine him with an AFL preseason.
Yeah.
And an AFL in the weight room and doing his conditioning and all of those things. It's going to be really exciting for him. So I'm so happy for him. And I'm happy for Curtis as well, because Curtis has taken...
I was going to say, talk to me about Curtis.
Curtis
goal of the year, perhaps?
Look, it's goal of the week, probably not goal of the year, but I do think that he has that in him. We know that Curtis has the ability to do some crazy things on the football field. Obviously, he kicked that goal against Sydney 2.5 years ago from the boundary, sort of similar angle to what he did today. His goal sense is incredible, but also he's just a freak athlete, Josh. He's just a freak. He's so strong. I mean, he beat Broad, like just in a straight up one-on-one. He beat Broad in the last quarter.
Yeah.
Straight up one-on-one, like just shoulder to shoulder, who's stronger. and he won it. And let me tell you something. I was walking around in Woolworths in Ivanhoe 2 weeks ago, and I saw Broad. I saw him. He is a giant.
Okay.
He is huge, and he is a legitimate. He's a legitimate key defender, and Curtis just stood him up. So I think it's a reward for Curtis. He's had a bit of a tough year, really. Like we kind of look at his year as though it's been fantastic, but obviously he's had a few suspensions and, which really curtailed him a little bit, didn't it? So it's probably an almost year for Curtis, but another preseason. And look, I think the goal for him next year is all Australian squad.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's how good he can be. And
yeah,
we saw a glimpse of it with that run before he got, wrongfully rubbed out as well. So, what it could have been, and that's the sort of player that can change our season. Those 3 games he was out after the Port Adelaide suspension, we lost all those by under 2 goals, and he kicked 2 every week. And I'm not saying we would have won those, but that's the sort of player that can get us over the line against the Bombers when it's such a gross, gritty game, and we get a couple more wins for the season. So I think it's super important. Anyone else down in that forward line? Look, we've touched on Darling, super smart. I really liked Geordie Payne's game. I think it was his best game. There's only a couple to pick from, really, but it was really, really solid from him. I like his work around the ground, his willingness to push up the ground. And then he did the hard stuff, but when he had the ball, he made the right decision with the ball. And I think we've found another one there as well. Maybe not as outstanding as Cooper has been, but he looked really, really comfortable out there today in front of the home Tassie fans as well.
Yeah, I felt really good for him, mate, going down back to Tassie and he having a really solid game. He had some really good entries inside 50, I thought. He didn't look overawed by the pace of the game, I didn't think. I think he's a really good high half-forward option moving forward. I guess the question I would have, and look, as I said, I think a lot of people have been calling for him to come into the side for quite a while now, is why he wasn't in the side. And what I suspect the reason is just there's guys ahead of him, in the role that they wanted to play. Yeah, like Simpkins. Simpkins probably was playing that role. Powell kind of a little bit. Parker at times. So look, I just think he's probably pushed out with probably the 2 areas that we have depth in our side, which are like medium forwards, which is kind of the Curtis Zerha role, and then midfield forwards. We've got stacks of them. So I think he's just unlucky, but he looked really, really good today. The other one I wanted to, again, Constanti, I know a lot of people don't like him. They want him to kick more goals, which, look, I get it. But you saw today what can happen. Like, he's a pressure player. He's got a block head is what he's got. He's got a cement head. And he just puts his head over it again and again, tackles really, really hard. I love his pressure. And it's clear that the players love him as well. They love that pressure that he puts on. And interestingly enough, Josh, we've had 6 players play every game this year. JK is one of them.
Yeah. They were talking about that in the ground, and they mentioned it on the broadcast when I watched some of the sections of the game back. And good on him, to be fair. Like, has he done enough? Has he not? That's up for debate every week, but on Aish last week, he played a very good role. He's done that on Bailey Dale as well, and players like that. So clearly there's a role for him. I guess the one I would be looking at is Payne and Constanti in the same side. Do you need one of those to kick maybe more goals? Potentially. But at least there's options there now. And I think that's really good, obviously, putting pressure on the guys to perform. One guy we might touch on before we go to the back line, Cam Zerha, went down with an injury in the second quarter, I believe it was. How concerned? I haven't heard much about it. As soon as I saw the replay, I thought ACL, but I've also heard potentially just an ankle injury. Did you hear anything on the broadcast, or have you got any insight into that?
Yeah, it's looking like a high ankle syndesmosis, which is a bloody good result, to be honest.
It's probably a positive. I was going to say a positive outcome. What it looks like.
And the good news, well, at least if that's what we're hearing, the presumptive tests, physical tests they do at the ground are very, very good for ACL ruptures. So they would have tested that, obviously, and if that wasn't a problem, then that's a really good sign. Yeah, it looks like a high ankle sprain, a syndesmosis. So what happens now is probably he's either in a moon boot for 6 weeks, or they sometimes do a tightrope procedure, which is becoming increasingly common, where they just basically, tie or pin the bones in the lower leg together. So hopefully he doesn't need surgery, but it is a shame because I think he's been one of our best this year, and
Yeah, agreed.
I think this is his career year for him, and I feel bad that he ends his year like that, because I think he's had a lot of kind of barren years, and he's signed. Obviously, this is the first year of his 5-year contract, and I was really happy for him. And the other thing is, no one pushes through pain and injury like he does. He's
that
just
Fremantle
battered.
game, mate, when he got bashed, and he's played every game since.
And he doesn't he just and does it for the team. He's just tough. And they're the players that you got to love. And I mean, I see a lot of people out there who are quite critical of him at times. He doesn't get enough the ball. He doesn't do that. Fair enough if you feel that way. But I just feel like if anybody out there embodies the North Melbourne person, it's him.
Yeah.
It's him. He's just puts his body on the line every week.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
So get well soon, Bill, the king of Marvel, the presumptive king of Marvel.
And he won't get his last game at Marvel, but hey, that's all right. Look, it's better, and look, there's never a good time for this, but it's better now than 6 weeks ago or through the middle of the season or something like that. One more game against Adelaide, which top of the table Crows, hot. Maybe they slack off and rest some players next week, but look, when Bull went down, I was really worried. Obviously, it was earlier in the game. The game was very much in the balance, and he was probably potentially the most dangerous forward. I think Curtis hasn't maybe been in the form that he showed on the day, but going into that game. So I was really worried, and I think credit to everybody in that forward line as well to be able to step up and kick our highest score of the year with Zerha. No Zerha and Larky, like you pointed out before, is unbelievable stuff. So like you said, if we can enter that ball in correctly or better like we did, clearly good things can happen. So let's go on to the back line. And do we start with I'm going to start with a point I want to make here, and we'll go to some questions on the back line in a second. I want to shout out Griffin Logue today. I thought Griffin Logue was fantastic for us, intercepting everything. Him and Pink were swapping onto Lynch a lot as well. Griffin Logue, 6 intercept possessions for the game. Charlie Comben, 8 as well. We'll touch on all these guys, but I thought Griffin was really, really solid. I think he's been not maybe unfairly criticised, because I think most of the year he has not been up to scratch at all. But I think the last 2, or since the Geelong game, I think he's actually been pretty okay for this team. And I think a lot of fans, and especially on the internet, will see one game from one person, then they write them off. And then whatever they do, like the people with Caleb Daniel hasn't had a bad game for about a month, right? Everyone, I think him as well, since that Cats game, everyone played bad in the Cats game. But since then, he's been really, really solid.
Luke McDonald's been hated for 5 years.
Yeah, well, that's right. And then people sort of decide that they hate the person. Griffin Logue, ideally, for this team going forward, and we've got some questions about the back line as a whole and as a unit. Griffin Logue, I think, is, on paper, a very important piece structurally to this back line moving forward over the next few years. If he can hit the form we know he can do, because he's more of that hybrid. We've got your Combins, Pink, or a Dawson down there, maybe a recruit, who knows, to be your big key position players. But Griffin can sort of play that Josh Gibson-esque role, that third man up, can play a bit shorter, can play a bit taller. He was great today, and I just want to give him a big shout out, because he intercepted well, he played his man well, and he kicked a goal as well from a 50-meter penalty. So good on him, but he was really solid today.
Yeah, I got a text from my mum. Okay, Josh, and I just want to let you in behind the curtain. She said, "You know the Kangas are going well when Gryffindor plays well." And that's all she wrote to me. That's just one line message, and I couldn't agree more.
One line's all you needed.
Well done, Griff. I've said this from the start. He clearly maybe they gave him the 5 espressos that we wanted to give him last time. Maybe they got him up on a back, because I feel like he's just, when he concentrates, he can be an amazing player. He's got all the physical capabilities to do it. Yeah. To be that Josh Gibson style player. I agree with you, Josh. But it's just his concentration levels maybe, or how he fits in the system, or one thing or another. But today it clicked, and he looked a lot better. And he has the capabilities. That's what I want people to understand. Like, it's not the fact that he's just not, quote unquote, just not up for it. Sorry, my dog is getting involved here.
No, that's fine. The dog's excited about the win too.
He was looking at me when I was going ballistic on the couch. He was just loving life. But yeah, so he has the capabilities, but I also think he complements the other people in our defense. Like Pink's your lockdown, Combin's your interceptor, and then Griff's probably your hybrid who can do both.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, look, one thing I noticed, and this is something I don't see, or you definitely don't see as much on the broadcast, unless there's someone of such an IQ of yourself, mate. But at the ground, someone dumb like me can only see this at the ground, where Toby Pink, and I've seen him do this a few times when I've gone to the games, he's good at deciding when to leave his man and go and impact a contest. And he did this a few times where he would leave Lynch at the exact right time and intercept the ball and gain us possession back. And he's a smart footballer. Look, he's had a fantastic year. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better year from Toby Pink. And I think he's had a lot of times this season where he's really shown us his footballing IQ and how high it can be, because we know he's a player that from the Sandford, and another recruit that we should be praising as well from what the club has done instead of just criticising him all the time. So, he's come from the Sandford and he's becoming a really smart footballer. And I think he's, obviously for the year been fantastic, but he knows when to leave his man and he makes smart decisions that win us back the footy.
100%. And this is what I think when people kind of look at Clarko's defensive system, this is the key to it really, is this rush up defense that, creates a 2-on-1, in that first contest so that it doesn't end up going out the back. Now, the problem with that, as we've said a couple of times, is that it looks horrendous when it doesn't work, i.e. or e.g. the Cats game when Jeremy Cameron had 5 Joe the Gooses out the back. And then you go, Toby Pink, he's no good. It's the system. Because Toby Pink is doing what he can. He plays very assertive. He plays in front, as you said, plays 5 metres in front, tries to impact the contest up the ground. But, sometimes it doesn't look very good when you're in a team that's bottom 4 in the competition. But you're exactly right. Pink, again, has the physical capabilities, but, I mean, he's been our best backman this year. McKercher probably is the best player in the back line, but the best genuine backman is been Pink. And this is a guy that we've plucked out of nowhere. So maybe, Josh, we've got to review what we think about Brady Rawlings.
Brady Rawlings is the greatest recruiter in AFL history. Is that what you're telling me right now?
You said that, Josh, not me.
And I did, and I'll say it again too. Until the draft, and then watch me change my tune somehow.
Josh, that's going to get the people in the YouTube comment section going. I can tell you right now.
I need the engagement, to be fair, so you've got to say something like that to get them going. Finn O'Sullivan today, really, really solid. I mean, we went into this game, and I pointed out on the preview, who's going to play on some of these smaller guys for the Tigers. They've got some forwards who, could potentially be damaging for them. I mean, you've got a Rioli, you've got a Campbell down there, players like that. You're like, could these guys be the game winners for them if they were going to get on top? And they didn't even really get a sniff, mate, to be honest. It was Lynch or nothing, to be honest, going into the forward line for the Tigers. And look, he got his own, to be fair. He kicked 3 goals, 4 or something. So it could have been a much bigger day. Not that I think that would have maybe changed the result, because us as a unit was just miles and miles better. But I just want to give credit to the defenders down there, and we really covered them well. The pressure through the middle of the ground didn't let the Tigers enter their forward 50 quickly. It was all dump kicks, and we took away what their strengths would have been. It was if the ball hit the ground. And I think that was great. Finn O'Sullivan was the one down there all game sweeping up. Every time he gets the ball, I just know he's going to make the right decision. He's strong through the hips, doesn't get tackled, goes left to right. Even Caleb Daniel pushing back to try and do some defensive things. I know people criticize him for his defending, even though he's not a defender. He played another really solid game, well by foot. I'm sure, I've been getting on people in the comments about Caleb Daniel, and they think he has about 5 to 7 turnovers a game. I'm just going to look at his turnovers now, and I reckon it's probably going to be 3 or under for the game. It's 2. So he's got 2 turnovers for the game again. Fantastic by foot, and he tries to make the plays. Had a couple of turnovers, of course, but that's the danger with any player in the AFL at that spot. So credit to the smalls. O'Sullivan was fantastic, took a fantastic contested mark. as well. And he's shown that a lot this season. Credit to Caleb Daniel. Colby wasn't leaking too much back there. I think the smalls and our midfield defensive pressure was spot on, because those smalls for the Tigers could have been really damaging.
Yeah, and we just didn't let them get out the back, and we also made sure that we were really, really tight when the ball came in, 50-50s. We were able to clear the area and be tight on them. I agree with the Finn O'Sullivan. He's you just never worry when he's involved. Like, you really have confidence in a one-on-one sense for Finn versus whoever, because he's got the physical capabilities. He's got really good leap. He's very fast. He's good by foot. And look, people are going to complain because he's not been in the rising star conversation. He's just been super, super solid the whole year.
Consistent, yeah.
Super consistent. That's all you want. And I think the ceiling for this guy is very, very high. But at the moment, we're just easing him into it, which I think is a really smart thing to do, given where our midfield's at and given the holes that we've got. Like, given that Archer's been out for a lot of the year, Finn's had to do a lot of that work, and I think he's done really, really well. There's guys down there that can be so dangerous. Like Seth Campbell is a freak athlete for Richmond. Yeah. Freak athlete, super fast. People will remember him from kicking the last goal against Carlton in the first round with the winning goal, and he does a backflip as a celebration. Like, how many dudes can do that? And
no backflips today.
No backflips today, and we kept him pretty quiet. He's been excellent for them this year. With McKercher, he does turn it over from time to time, and I guess this is the thing about McKercher is he's just got to learn, and this will happen with time, right? It just happens with time, and he's just got to learn when to bite it off and when not to. You know what I mean? Like, there's a couple of times where he could have just cleared the kick it long down the line and get it out of the area, and he tries to bite off that 25-metre one, which he doesn't quite hit properly, and then turns it over. Or other times he maybe could go that inside kick, but then he kind of gets a little bit gun shy. But to be honest, Josh, the second half of the year for McKercher has been excellent. And, no second year. I thought he was going to suffer the second year blues, but he's been fantastic the second half of the year. And his run off halfback, that's when we look our best, is when he's streaming through the midfield. No one can keep up with him. And there are a few opportunities today, particularly in the third quarter, where he could have had a shot for goal. But he ended up trying to pass.
Tried to pass one off and it got intercepted. But he shrugged someone off too, just absolutely taking the piss. And look, you know what I think about Colby McKercher. You didn't have to tell me how much of a superstar this man is, and I've said repeatedly. And even though after Sheez's performance today, this probably isn't the best sentence, but I think his potential is the highest on the list. Like, for me, it just is. I think this guy could be anything in the AFL. He could be that Errol Goulden. I think he could go levels above. I think, he's got a pace. Goulden is a fantastic user of the football, but he doesn't have the blistering pace of a McKercher, even though he's an excellent user of the football. And I think McKercher can possess both of those qualities. And if you can have the pace that McKercher does, but use the ball as well as we know he can be absolutely anything. So, look, I'm not trying to specifically compare him on a day where we had so many young guns shine, more just saying that the potential of this kid is absolutely sky high. And look, there was people on the pod trying to shoot him down in the first half of the year, and I said, no, we do not drop this guy. He's too unique. And look, my call was fantastic. I'm not going to point out all the ones I've got wrong this year because there's too many. The podcast isn't long enough. But look, that's one I did get right. And I love Colby. I'm a biased Tassie boy, but biased or not, if you watch the games, you know how talented that kid is. So we've got a couple more questions about the defense, and then we can go to some general stuff and finish her up. Justin Smith on Facebook, given Lynch's start, the defense adjusted really well. So is this a terrible defensive system or a defensive system that doesn't hold up when the ball is turned over in bad areas? So I think more what they're trying to ask there is, is the system out or is the system okay, but we can't deal with the ball when it's transitioned? Because the defense looked good today when we didn't give up all that transition.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the bigger question is, do we have the personnel to execute the defensive game plan that we want? And the answer is yes, because we've shown today that we can execute a game plan. a team is always going to look most vulnerable when they turn the ball over. That's just how it works, because you've got that split second of time. Might be 2 seconds, it might be 5 seconds. That probably depends on how good the team is, but where your defense is out of position after you turn it over. This transition period. The problem for us is quite clearly that we are just not good in transition. We haven't been for like 5 years. And
this was against bottom of the table Richmond as well, or near bottom, you know what I mean? So as much as it was a fantastic game, we do have to take that into consideration.
Correct. And the other thing I think is worthwhile is you talking about is your offense really affects your defense. So if you see the way that we build the ball up, the reason we do that is to protect our back six. Because it's much easier to defend us, much easier to defend if we build it up slowly than go through the middle. But what was interesting about today which made it a little bit different, is we did play a style where we were moving it through the middle a little bit more and just going, look, if we turn it over, we turn it over. And we look good. So I think we're just going to continue to learn from it. It's a great question, but I think that we're just going to slowly get better at our defensive transition, hopefully. That's the idea. But if our offense gets better, our defense will also get better, just naturally, because we're moving
the more we
quickly.
have the ball, the less the opposition can score against us. You know what I mean?
And
you
also
can see that with the tackles today. This is one of the times that we've had less tackles than the other team because we had the ball all the time. We took 11 bounces to 0 today, which is just showing how much of the football and how much space and time we created for ourselves as well. And, I even though those stats don't directly speak about exactly how dominant we were, I think there are points where you can be like, well, look, if a team's got 11 bounces to 0, there's no way that team didn't dominate or have as much time and space as they wanted. And sort of leading on to that question and what you were saying about the defense, Gareth Goose Hunter on Facebook, I only see, and we had a lot of questions like this about the forwards, mids and backs. I only see the back line as our only line that really needs improvement. We need to get at least 2 gun defenders. Do you guys think we should do this through the draft or try it faster through trade and free agency? So 2 parts there. Do you see the back line as the only area, apart from time and obviously with young guys there, that we need to recruit for and is a little bit out of whack still? And if so, do you want to go through the draft or do you want to go through free agency or trade?
Goose Hunter. Was that Goose Hunter who asked that question?
The Goose Hunter, mate. Gareth the Goose Hunter.
Thanks, Gareth. Is Goose Hunter his second name or is he a Goose Hunter?
I will confirm back to you, mate. Look, there's a slight... Just let us know, I can only just see a little bit of his profile photo. I don't think there's many geese there, to be honest.
Okay, cool.
Looks like a nice man.
Okay, it's a great question, Gareth, because it's the $64,000 question, right? Do you go through the draft? Do you go through free agency? I think the reality of it is, and this is just my personal opinion, is that our backline is the weakest link, clearly, of the 3 positional areas of the ground. Like, I think our forward line has potential to be one of the best in the competition. I think we've got serious weapons with the likes of Lark when we're at our best with Larky, Zerha. Curtis obviously is a massive X factor. Darling's very solid, and then if Trembath continues to improve like he is, like that's incredible. I think the only thing we're missing in that area is like that genuine small forward goal kicker that some teams have, like a Bobby Hill or a Charlie Cameron or these sorts of Cozzy Pickett. So, but I think that we can deal with that. I think the back line's a little bit of a different thing again because quite clearly we've got to work out where we see Comben, number 1, where we see Will Dawson, number 2, and where those guys sit. Because if you feel like, because I think Comben could be an elite intercept defender, and I think he has shown glimpses of that in the past. And I think as we improve our game plan, he's going to benefit from that. And then you look at the other 2 defenders and you go, well, Pink is I think Pink is serviceable. Like he's not going to be, he's not going to be Sam Taylor, but I think he's been really good this year. And then Griffin Logue has the potential to be really good. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is, do we have the troops there now and rely on us improving over the off season, or do we need to go out there and try and bring someone in? I think the reality is I've seen enough from Will Dawson to think that he has the potential to be that player that we're looking for. The other thing is I don't think there are players out there at the moment through free agency particularly, which is how we'd prefer to get our players because you don't have to give up anything for them. The only one is Lekalia from GWS, and I don't think we've done the hard work to get him. He looks like he's all but going to St Kilda at this point. So the other one is Starcevic.
Well, Jake Lever's been spoken about, and Starcevic I was going to point out. Like, would you consider a Lever for a few years while a Will Dawson comes on? Maybe Lever comes in, makes our defence a lot more stable, and then Will Dawson can take that place over the next couple of years?
Yeah, maybe. But again, like, what do you have to give up for Jake Lever? Jake Lever's in contract. They would probably demand at least a first round draft pick for him, if not more. So you kind of got to weigh up the advantage versus disadvantage, what the opportunity cost of getting him. I think he would help for sure, obviously. But the other thing is, and this is the more broad position that I've taken the whole time, is we've got to worry more about our defensive system rather than the personnel at this point. Like we can get the personnel once we get to the point where we're contending if we need to. I just think that the most worrying thing at the moment is our defensive system. Yes, if we had Sam Taylor and Harris Andrews, we'd be better. Like, clearly. I'm not saying that. But what I would say is that, we've got to worry about our system first.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Let's rapid fire a few of these. Glenn Lavender, I'll just read the second half of the question here. My question is, with 5.5 wins, improved percentage, 20-plus games into young players, should we be content with the steady growth, or does the way we lost some of those 18 sour the genuine growth of the club? Now, the last podcast you're on, we had some comments in the YouTube comments. We've never seen Chief so down. We've never seen him so flat. Is Chief doing okay? After today, I can confirm, yes, I think he's doing all right. They were concerned for you, mate. They could see the body language was flat. How do you feel about that? Like, I've been on this all year. I think I've seen enough, even in some of the close losses, to know we're a different team this year, and we can actually springboard next year like we maybe thought we would this year. I really believe that next year can be that year that we can jump to a 12th or 13th. And I know that might be conservative for some, maybe a little bit, but around that 12th spot on the ladder, get to 8 to 10 wins going into next year, I think is realistic with what I've seen, an actual body of work, an actual platform that we can build off. Do you sort of feel the same, or do you think the way we've lost some of the games this season has soured that for you a touch?
Oh, it has a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I would have thought that we would pass through a lot of these losses that we've had. I think we've had some really, really disappointing ones. The one against Hawthorn obviously was shocking. This is my dog. Sorry. Henry.
Henry's on the pod.
He wants to know. He really wants to know where they're at.
Can I just say one point quickly here? I don't disagree with you about that at all. But those sort of losses, we've all but halved, if not, we've lowered those big smashings by a lot. I don't know off the top of my head how many times we got absolutely obliterated by 60 plus last year, but I'd say it's probably 8 plus. And I can only really think of 3 games this year that I'm really disappointed in. A couple blew out a little bit late against very good teams, but the way we played for 3 quarters, I think for where we're at is okay. I look at the Cats, the Blues, and the Hawks game. Other than that, I haven't been too disappointed and walked out feeling gross like I did last year. So, and like you said before, you thought we'd be a bit over those sort of games. Brisbane got belted. I think they were thinking they'll never get smashed again. Port Adelaide got smashed by nearly 100 2 weeks in a row. They shouldn't be doing that at all. So that would be my counterpoint to that, is like, everyone gets smashed a little bit. And from what we did last year to this year, I think that's a gigantic improvement. We only got smashed against the best team in the last 20 years, Hawthorn down in Tassie, who they roast everybody down there. And the Carlton one was abysmal, and there's no excuse for any of them. But it's so much better than what we did last year, that being the bar being low.
Yeah, look, the bar is low, I guess. And I think if I take a step back and go, okay, what's our percentage doing? Last year we ended the season with a percentage of like 70, and now we're on 75. So it hasn't gone up. I guess my point is it's not gone up as much as I would hope. Also, we haven't obviously had the wins that we would hope. We talked about 6 to 8 wins. We've had 5.5. So we're not that far off the 6 to 8, but and I will say this, we have probably left more games on the table this year than what we have in the past. Like we obviously had the game against Port, the game against Essendon. We definitely should have won the game
I think
against
we've got
Essendon.
6 or 7 losses under 2 goals.
Yeah, the game against St Kilda. We've had just a lot of these games where, you know, it wasn't necessarily us losing it or not knowing how to win, but also I do feel like we left a lot on the table this year. So, and we win 2 of those games, suddenly things look a lot different. You know, that's the reality. But the reason why I was down was because, and I just want to explain this to people because I went to the Geelong game and it was probably the worst game I've been to in a very long time.
Well, that'll do it to you.
Yeah, I was consoled by Mark Howard actually up in the, like I went to the corporate boxes for a little bit and I saw Mark Howard at halftime and he goes, mate, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about your team. And I just go, Howie, it's all good, man. But the reason why I'm frustrated is because I don't see any reason why we were shit. Yeah. Like we've got all the reasons to be good. You know, we've got the stability, we've got the core of players, in my opinion, that should make us very, very competitive. And there was no reason that I could see for why we were shit. And if there's no reason for it, you feel like, well, if there's no reason for it, then we're just going to be shit forever. And that's the frustration, I think, as a supporter, is that when are we going to get to the point where we're competitive every single week, or where are we going to get to the point? And I went to the Hawthorn versus Western Bulldogs final last year, and I thought to myself, how good would it be when you, Josh Neal, and myself, and all the rest of the North supporters are going to the MCG to watch our team play in a knockout final in front of 90,000 people. Yeah. How good will that be?
It'll be unbelievable.
And the frustration for me at that point when we played Geelong is like, I feel like we're such a world away from that. And so if people picked up on that, that's why. And I feel like we've got the pillars, but we just haven't put it together, and that's frustrating.
I understand. I mean, look, and this is the way my brain operates as well, is like, for that game, I look at that Geelong game and go, well, we had 12 blokes under 50 games and we had no Larkey, no Sherry and no Wardlaw. And we're coming up against the best team of the last 25 years with a 75% win rate. You know, if that happened against a team, even the Bulldogs or something like that, or say a mid-pack team, I would have been absolutely ropeable. But I feel like where we're at in the development, a loss against Geelong, albeit I don't want to give excuses for such an awful performance, that kind of is a little bit irrelevant if it was someone that was more close to our level or sort of mid-pack. But I understand the other point of view as well, where there's 2 different sides of the coin. I mean, look, we're 75% for the year. That's nearly 10% better than Richmond, who's fallen below us now, which is nice. So we've really removed ourselves. Points-wise, Richmond are close to us, obviously, but percentage-wise, we're miles and miles away from them, which shows how much they've been smashed this year. They've been they're having a year. Yep.
But also how competitive we have been in certain games, right?
For sure. Well, that's what that shows, right? Paul Roos came into the Ds and the first thing he said was, we're going to improve this percentage. And that's what gets you up the ladder. And that's why I think we got a higher percentage than Essendon. We're almost got the same percentage as Port Adelaide. You know, you're even going up to St Kilda and we're near them. And I know these are middle to bottom teams, but that's the pack we have to start beating. And I think we've got more talent than all of those teams. And I think that's why, with some patience, we can do it. And that's why I'm saying this year we have a foundation that we can build off to show we can do it and we will do it. And I think that's what it is. One more thing just to point out from the game before we finish this up, and we'll go to Sean Atley Club Champ and everything like that. I loved Clarkson from the boundary line, and I think that has made a shift in the team's mentality. Him coaching for the boundary line, when Trembath, you know, laid that pressure on the guy to kick it out of bounds, he was high-fiving people. When Whitlock kicked his goal, he looked happy. He just seems like part of the team as well. And if you're not looking at that and thinking Clarko is the guy and this is what is going to take us forward to whatever point you think he can take us forward to, I'm not saying he's going to be our premiership coach, but take us forward to whatever degree, I think you're blind, because we haven't had that. Can you imagine, did David Noble even high-five one of our players? Absolutely not. You know what I mean? Brett Ratton didn't do that. This is how much we needed to change. We've been a basket case for so long, and he's making continuity. People are re-signing. People want to be there. You know, he's made us a club again. He's made us one club, and everyone's buying into the same thing. And yes, the on-field results might not be pointing or going as quickly as we would like, but off the field, we have come on leaps and bounds. And that is not even up for debate. That's just a fact. And that's something that the media will refuse to acknowledge. Outside fans don't know because they don't follow. And that's for us to know. And I watch what he's done off the field, and I go, that's why I'm confident that he can take us forward. Anyone saying he should hand in his resignation, whoever that was on SEN or whatever rubbish radio station that was on, that's just clickbait and that's just garbage. And they haven't done a second of research into what's gone on behind the walls at North Melbourne. And all you'd have to do is go and talk to a couple of North fans for 5 seconds and realize he's doing something. So shout out to Clarkson. I love him on the boundary. That is the place to be for him. I love it. All right. Sean Atlee Club champ, golden helmet, and let's finish this thing up. I've got 3 locks for the club champ, but we're giving out 4 votes today because that was so much fun. We'll still give 3, 2, 1, but we're going to put 2 players in one of the categories there. So I think it's obvious Sheez has to be 3, and I think he sort of has to be on his own because it was a different stratosphere. I'm going to lock LDU into 2, and I'm going to lock Curtis into 1. Well, not lock him into 1. He could move to 2 if you want. If we were giving one more person a vote in the Sean Atlee Club champ, who would it potentially be? Because my heart says I want to give Griffin Logue 1 vote for how good he was defensively today. And once again, the club champ is not just about numbers and who was the best on the day. He hasn't been in the best form and he stepped up and got us a massive win and was crucial in that role. Now, your opinion matters here, and I want you to let me know. I'm not saying Griffin Logue has to get votes, but if I was giving a 4th, not necessarily as a 4th best player on the ground, but Wardlaw was fantastic and McKercher, but we needed someone in that back line to really step up and intercept the ball and gain us possession. I think he did it the best out of everyone down there, even though Chom was fantastic as well. But the floor's yours. What do you reckon?
Yeah, the 3 and the 2 are pretty obvious, I think. I mean, Curtis could potentially be a 2 as well. He had an excellent game. He was fantastic. Yep. Probably a career game for Curtis, really.
Potentially.
I think that's probably
the most
the best.
he's kicked in a game.
I think it's his best. So we'll keep him 1. Look, I'm happy with Griffin Logue as 1 as well. I mean, Sherry is the other one. I think personally, 18 tackles is just stupid numbers. You know, they're ridiculous. So. But Cherry gets a lot of votes normally, so he can miss out for 1 week, right? Not a big deal.
Yeah. Well, look, let's look at the comments on the Instagram post, and everyone will be upset at me that I didn't put Tristan in there. I mean, George Wardlaw as well.
Yep.
But look, everyone who's listening to the pod, hopefully let me know down below in the comments on YouTube if you agree with this. But I just think Griff Logue stepped up a lot more than what we've seen. And we needed that in a big game, and I think he was excellent back down there. So if we go Sheez 3, LDU and Curtis 2, and then Griffin Logue 1, I think that's fair enough. But a massive shout out. Well, that's it. Keep them coming. I don't know what they're doing down in the cafes in Hobart, but we need some more of that. But shout out to X and to Wardlaw as well. I mean, they could have obviously got votes. There's lots of players we could have picked from. So. Look, don't come at me in the comments of those and tell me how stupid I am, because the justification is here on the pod. And if you're battling me in the comments over Griffin Logue, you didn't listen to the bloody podcast. All right. Golden helmet moment of the game. It's probably Paul Curtis's goal, but Whitlock's goal was so fun. You know what? In the ground, I don't know if this came across on the broadcast. When Sheez was on 49 touches, and he touched that ball, and then Rioli tackled him for holding the ball, the whole crowd cheered like he got it, and then went, oh, and the jeer that came from the crowd was fantastic at the ground. Then he got it a little bit later, and everyone exploded. But have you got a candidate for?
Yeah, look, mine's probably Look, Curtis definitely. What a goal! Goal of the week for sure. Whitlock, obviously, fantastic to see someone get their first. Mine's personally going to be the centre bounce where George beats a couple of Tigers on the ground, farms it out to Powell to Constantia, and then Sheezel with the finish from 50 to get the crowd up and going. That's the one that you just want to put into your veins, Josh.
Well, look, Wardlaw didn't get a vote in the club champ, so we're going to give him that one right there. That contest that he won, stick his head over it. I love him. I love George. All right, look, let's finish it up. We've nearly gone for an hour and 20 here. Hopefully everyone is listening and having a good time. If you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe. It helps me. My goal is 2,000 subscribers by the end of the calendar year, because we've still got trades, we've still got free agency and the draft coming up. There's so much content to happen. So please subscribe, like the video, comment, get behind the socials. Chief, thank you so much for coming back on. We finally got you after a win, mate. And look, we might get you back on through the off season at some point just for a little bit of an update, but you can put your feet up now, mate. You've done your due diligence on the Further North pod for the year.
Yeah, thank you, mate. I appreciate that. Thanks for all the fans as well. Like I joke about the YouTube comments. We all have our differences of opinion, but I love talking North. That's what it comes down to.
And get over to From the Outer podcast as well. He does some good work over there, and more broad AFL chat than specifically just North Nuffies going at it.
That's it, exactly. Bit of comedy as well, Josh. Trying to bring something different, to the.
Well, you're a funny guy, mate. You have that naturally.
No, well, I'm funny in maybe different ways than you're referring to, but yeah, we're just trying to have a little bit of fun. But yeah, off on holiday now, so
perfect. Feet up on the beach.
Yeah, that's the one.
On the beach down in Tassie. All right, thank you, mate. We'll chat to you soon. Thank you for listening, everybody. Enjoy the week, and look, it's coming. It's coming. North Ball truly lives down in Tasmania. Thank you, Hobart, as well, for serving us the last few years. But hey, I'm going to go out to dinner with my family down in Salamanca now. It's going to be a fun time, and then come back and edit. So a good night for me. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Chief. We'll chat to you.
Thanks, guys.
Chat to you all soon.
See ya.